I never imagined I'd be the kind of man who'd install hidden cameras in his own home. But suspicion has a way of seeping in quietly, first as a whisper, then like a flood. It wasn't one defining incident that pushed me over the edge. It was the accumulation of small, unsettling moments. The way she grinned at her phone when she thought I wasn't watching. How conversations would halt the moment I walked into a room. Those long nights at work that suddenly became her new normal. I kept telling myself I was reading too much into it. That after nearly a decade together, 6 of those as husband and wife, I should have faith in her. Her name was Lily. She had once been my anchor, my person, my safest place. But recently, the woman I loved began to feel like a stranger, like I was reaching for someone already slipping away. At first, I blamed myself. I chalked it up to exhaustion, overthinking, and the fear of losing what mattered most. But that gnawing doubt settled in my chest and grew heavier by the day until I could no longer pretend it wasn't there. So I did something I swore I'd never do. I gave in. I bought a few discreet cameras, tiny, quiet watchers hidden in plain sight. I justified it by telling myself it was just to calm my nerves, that I'd feel foolish soon after and rip them all out. For a while, things seemed normal. Lily moved around the house the way she always had. Cooking dinner, scrolling her phone, sipping wine while flipping through TV channels on the couch. I started to feel ashamed, like I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Then Thursday happened. She told me she'd be working late again. Her tone was casual, even cheerful, like it was just another day. I was supposed to meet a friend for drinks, but something in my gut told me not to. I canceled the plan, stayed home, and watched the footage instead. Hours passed with nothing out of the ordinary. Then, just after 10, the front door opened. Lily walked in, and she wasn't alone. A man followed behind her, tall, confident, like he belonged there. She didn't look nervous, not even remotely guilty. She looked at ease, almost content. He smiled at her, and she returned the gesture. It was the same smile I used to think was meant only for me. They sat on the couch. She leaned into him. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. She laughed at something he said. Then, without hesitation, she kissed him. And I just sat there, motionless, as a life I thought I had unraveled in real time. I couldn't turn away. I didn't even feel anger, not right away. What washed over me was colder, numbness that settled deep like frost in my bones. I replayed the footage countless times that night, looking for some loophole, some reasonable doubt. But it was clear, raw, unmistakable. She hadn't slipped up in a fleeting moment of weakness. She was comfortable. She looked like she belonged there, with him. Not me. I didn't say anything that night. No shouting, no confrontation. I just sat in silence beside a woman who no longer felt like mine. She talked about our upcoming vacation, joked about movies, chatted about plans like everything was perfectly fine. But to me, her voice was just background noise, meaningless and empty. I nodded when expected, smiled when necessary. But I was no longer truly present. I was a ghost in my own home. Each night, I lay next to her in bed, pretending to sleep, pretending not to remember. But I remembered everything. Her kiss, her laughter, the way she looked at him, the way she once used to look at me. And yet, I kept reviewing the footage, not out of obsession but disbelief. I needed to be sure it wasn't just a dream, because facing it meant admitting that the woman who once stood by me through every storm had now become the storm itself. Then came the moment everything truly fell apart. I came home earlier than usual, far earlier than she'd anticipated. As I opened the door, I heard her in the kitchen, light laughter spilling into the air, her voice playful and soft. But it wasn't meant for me. Not anymore. I didn't interrupt. I just stood there listening, and in that moment, something in me fractured. Not from rage or heartbreak, but from certainty. I was finished. Later that evening, she hummed while cooking like everything was perfectly normal. There was a peace to her, an ease, but I couldn't fake it anymore. I stepped into the kitchen, calm and deliberate. She turned around with that same smile I used to live for. "We need to talk," I said. She paused. "Is something wrong?" "I know," I told her. Her expression changed instantly. "Know what?" I didn't answer. I simply took out my phone, opened the save video, and pressed play. There it was, her betrayal, captured clearly, frame by frame. She stared at the screen, color draining from her face. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "It's not what it looks like." A dry, bitter chuckle escaped me. "No, Lily, it's exactly what it looks like." She dropped to the floor, sobbing, grabbing at my leg, pleading, "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Please, we can fix this. I love you." But her words were hollow, ricocheting off a version of me that didn't exist anymore. "You're not sorry for what you did," I said, stepping back. "You're just sorry I saw it." She cried harder, promised it would never happen again, begged for forgiveness. But the man who used to believe in her was already gone. I looked at her one last time. "Goodbye, Lily," and I walked out. No screaming, no dramatics, just silence. Final, peaceful silence after an emotional war that had drained me to my core. That night, I packed a small bag, not to escape, but to breathe. She tried to reach out, calls, texts, long emails filled with apologies and shared memories. I never replied, not because I hated her, but because there was simply nothing left to say. I found a modest apartment and started again. The nights were rough at first. Memories lingered like shadows, but with time they faded. What remained was clarity. I forgave her, not to free her from guilt, but to release myself from pain. Because infidelity doesn't just end a relationship. It shatters the part of you that once believed in unconditional love. She didn't lose me the night I saw the footage. She lost me the moment she gave her heart to someone else in secret. And I found myself the day I realized I no longer needed her to feel whole. Closure didn't come from her tears or excuses. It came when I walked away and never looked back.